2 weeks ago, I was all in on Codex. I'd been using it consistently for 3 months, very happy with it, but I saw everyone talking about Opus 4.5 and decided, okay, I'll give it a shot. I tried it out for a week, really wasn't a fan, but then I decided to try it the right way, and everything changed. In this video, I'm going to discuss the 5 features that really changed my experience of Claude Code, why Codex's reliability wasn't enough to keep me around, and how to use Claude Code the way it's meant to be used. Just to give you some context, here's my experience with agentic coding. I started using Cursor about daily in August 2024. Really liked it. This was back, before Claude 3.5. Then in February 2025, I switched to Claude Code. I was one of the earliest adopters using it before the Claude subscription was tied to Claude Code usage. So I was just using my own API tokens. And I loved it. It was an incredible tool. I love using the terminal. I prefer working on the terminal. So it was really wonderful to be back in my favorite native environment. I canceled Cursor. I would just do everything in Claude Code. But in July or August of 2025, I was noticing the same problems that a lot of people at that time were noticing. Maybe Anthropic was quantizing their models. It's unclear, but there was definitely a decline in quality. And I was still happy with Claude Code. I wasn't complaining as much as other people. But in September or so of 2025, I was on a task in Claude Code where Claude was just going in circles. It kept running into the same problems over and over again. And I realized that I have Codex available for free. And so I decided, okay, I'll try it out. And Codex was able to solve this problem that I was stuck on for 3 hours in about 5 minutes. It was a front end web development problem. And with just that one experience, I decided, okay, I'm switching over to Codex. And I have been really happy with Codex ever since for the last 3 months that I've been using it every single day. I found it more reliable than Claude Code. It just reliably sticks on the exact task that you set it to. And the new versions of models that OpenAI keeps coming out with do consistently, incrementally improve the experience. I missed the developer experience of Claude Code because it's a much better terminal application, but Codex is just a machine. Then on November 24th, Opus dropped and the internet exploded. And I was seeing my whole timeline explode with posts about how Opus 4.5 is ushering in the second golden age of vibe coding. And there was too much signal for it to all be noise. And so I decided, look, I don't necessarily want to plop down another $100 or $200, but I'm going to give it a shot. And I signed up for the max plan again, and I don't like it. And within a week, I actually canceled my Claude subscription. But here's the thing. I kept thinking that I must be missing something because I was just seeing so many people have great experiences with Claude Code. And I hadn't been using, besides having a Claude.md, any of the features that are particular of Claude Code, like subagents, skills, plugins. And so I decided, look, I'm probably missing something. I don't know if that's going to make the difference, but I'm going to try it out and let's see if that actually makes a difference for my experience with Claude Code. And so about a week ago, I decided to try this second wind of Claude Code experimentation, and it completely changed my experience to the point where I've now canceled my ChatGPT Pro subscription, and I'm just using Claude Code exclusively. The first thing I changed was to enable dangerously skip permissions every single time I use Claude Code. So for those of you who are not familiar with Claude Code, what Claude Code typically does is it will ask for permission for each new tool use, each new directory in which it's reading, any new kind of action it's taking. And that's safe, but it's also slow. Dangerously skip permission just skips all of that. Anthropic calls it YOLO mode, but honestly, in my experience, it just works. It works pretty well. So I even created an alias on my terminal, Claude DD, to open this up automatically. And once I just did that, made it just incrementally more convenient to enter into this mode, my experience became much better because Opus is a lot faster than the GPT-5 Codex class of models, and I'm not noticing a big quality difference on anything I throw at it. They're pretty comparable. It's just that Opus is way faster. So the first thing I would recommend, maybe a controversial recommendation, is turn on dangerously skip permissions if you're using Claude Code. The second discovery I made was that the native plan tool works really well. Now, I early on sort of came to the discovery that when you're using coding agents like Claude Code and Codex, you need to have some kind of plan written before you actually go on and implement any sort of non-trivial feature or change to your code base or whatever you're working on. And so I had hacked together my sort of own slash commands and system for doing planning and then keeping track of state as the plan is implemented. And so I had been continuing to use this, which I had developed well before Claude Code came out with a native plan mode, but I kept using it in my first week of using Claude Code. And so I decided, okay, I'm going to do it the Claude Code way this time. And let me just see how \plan works. It works very well, and it works way better than what my sort of markdown file system was doing. So I was getting better results, both in terms of the quality of the plan and the fidelity with which Claude Code sort of stuck to the plan when using the native plan mode and using the native sort of work mode on top of planning. And so my recommendation is that if you have some ad hoc planning capabilities that you've developed, scrap it and just try Claude Code's native plan mode. It's very good. The third realization I had is that skills are not a gimmick. In fact, they're something that you should be using like day one of using Claude Code. So I had developed, again, my own system of having certain markdown files that I would reference via my agents.md. And I thought that this would be very similar to a skill. And so I thought of a skill as kind of reinventing something which I had already developed. Like, why do I need skills? So for those of you who aren't aware, skills are collections of markdown files and other files which help Claude Code do certain kinds of repetitive tasks that you may want to do, such as a code review or interacting with some API and uploading some data. Maybe you could have an exploratory data analysis skill, just certain kinds of tasks that you may want to do repetitively and have standard operating procedures for the coding agent on how to do them. And so I had developed, again, my own ad hoc system, but Claude Code's sort of built-in skills, once I started using them, because Anthropic provides some, such as the front-end development skill, they were way better than anything I had put together myself. And the general developer community is creating many different skills, which, as I've been using them, have really changed my workflow very quickly. Somebody else's skills that have been well optimized for particular use cases, that's not something I anticipated. And once I then started looking through some of these skill marketplaces, I realized that, hey, this is really good. And it's not something available in Codex. One more point which I didn't understand were subagents. So for those of you who don't know, Claude Code is, an agentic coding tool, but it can also call specialized instances of other sort of delegate agents. And I didn't really understand subagents. I thought that they were something that I would have to manually orchestrate. So like I would need to be thinking, oh, okay, Claude Code, go use the subagent to do this. And I didn't understand also how subagents help with context. So when you use Claude Code or Codex, you're always fighting against not reaching the compaction point. But what sub-agents allow you to do are delegate certain tasks to another instance of Claude Code and not have the work of that other instance of Claude Code affect your main usage limits in terms of how much you can do in terms of token usage before hitting a compaction point. And the other important piece is that the sub-agents themselves are being called automatically by your main Claude Code instance. And so I completely misinterpreted what the utility of sub-agents are. And since getting to experience their benefits in Claude Code, this is a killer feature which really allows you to get a lot more out of the coding agent and is not available in Codex because Codex does not have a sub-agents feature. So this is one more really killer feature of Claude Code. This segs to one more important point, which is auto-compaction. So in the early history of agentic coding, what people realized is that compacting yourself was always better than letting the auto-compact work because the auto-compact was trash. So compaction is necessary when you reach a certain amount of token usage, you're getting close to the end of your limits and you want to continue your session. And so these coding agents have built-in methods to sort of compress the relevant history of what you've been discussing in the session and to carry over only a portion of that to the next session so that you can continue working. And with Codex, I had typically been letting it get to, let's say, 40% left, and then I had my own sort of ad hoc method of manually compacting, and then I would just sort of copy the summary out to the next coding agent. But with Claude Code, I was hitting auto-compact limits, and I just let it keep going. And what I noticed is that the auto-compaction works really well. So I never compact manually anymore. I just let Claude Code decide what the relevant parts are for the tasks that I want to keep on working on in the next session. And there's a few times where the next session will be maybe a little bit off base, like it'll start creating some new feature that I didn't want or do things slightly differently. But like 95% of the compactions that the auto-compact does are just spot on. And so that takes away a lot of overhead in terms of what I need to think about when I'm using Claude Code. And so the quality of the auto-compaction is really a very important feature. And one final point which I didn't understand is how to best use MCPs in Claude Code. So with Codex, I usually have like 15 MCPs available all the time, and they don't eat up into the context. It just seems like Codex uses whatever MCPs it needs pretty reliably whenever it needs them. With Claude Code, the MCPs that you have available do explicitly eat up into your context window. So not even using them, just having them available. But what I didn't realize is that Claude Code makes it very easy to, on a per project basis, decide which of your MCPs should be available for that project and which ones shouldn't. You just do \MCP and then a UI comes up where you can enable or disable particular MCPs. And so this was an irritating thing for me, which in my first week of using Claude Code, I didn't realize. And in the second week, I decided, okay, let me go through all these commands and really explore what they do. Once I did, allowed me to free up in every single project a lot of usage or a lot of potential usage availability. And that just made my experience better. So I've really been enjoying my experience with Claude Code. I hope this was helpful to you guys. If you enjoyed this video too, please like and subscribe. And I'm going to be making a lot more videos about my experience with Claude Code and how you can best use it yourselves. Thank you.